The demonstration field stretched across 2 miles of open ground under 3 pale suns. Wraith watched from the observation platform as the humans unpacked their equipment. His scales rippled with amusement. 20 years leading the Draven military academies had taught him to recognize outdated technology when he saw it. "Those are chemical propellant weapons," his aide said, pointing at the rifles the humans were setting up on display tables. "Museum pieces," Wraith replied. He tapped his wrist communicator, recording everything for his report to the Coalition Council. The humans had requested membership 3 months ago. Today would determine if they had anything useful to offer. Owen Taylor stood beside the display tables, aware of every dismissive glance from the Draven observers. He had served 30 years in special operations before taking this diplomatic assignment. He knew how to read a room even when that room was an alien military proving ground. "We will begin with historical context," Owen said through the translation device. "Humans developed kinetic weapons approximately 1,000 years ago. We used them as our primary combat tools for centuries." Wraith made a notation on his datapad. 1,000 years was nothing. The Draven had abandoned such primitive systems 15,000 years ago, when energy shielding became standard. Any species still using bullets and explosives was living in the past. Owen triggered the first demonstration. A human soldier fired a rifle at a target 500 meters away. The crack of the gunshot made several Draven flinch. The bullet hit center mass, punching through the target. "Impressive noise," Wraith said. "But watch this." He gestured to one of his own soldiers who activated a personal energy shield. The shimmer of protective force surrounded the Draven warrior like a second skin. Owen nodded to the human soldier who fired again. The bullet never reached its target. The energy shield calculated the trajectory in microseconds and generated a counterforce that deflected the round harmlessly away. "Your kinetic weapons are useless against modern defenses," Wraith explained, not unkindly. "The Coalition abandoned such technology millennia ago for good reason. Energy shields can predict and deflect any physical projectile. Your bullets, your missiles, your artillery, all of it becomes worthless against an opponent with basic defensive technology." Owen absorbed the demonstration without visible reaction. "What you say is true. Our traditional firearms are ineffective against your shields. Then why waste our time with this presentation?" Wraith asked. "Because humans learned to fight long before we invented gunpowder," Owen said. He walked to a different table, one covered with a cloth. "The Coalition has been very generous in sharing your military doctrine with us. We have studied your tactics, your weapons, your defensive systems. We understand that energy-based combat is the galactic standard." He pulled away the cloth, revealing something that made Wraith's translator struggle to find the correct term. Long curved sticks attached to strings, straight shafts with pointed tips stored in containers. Equipment that looked like it belonged in an archaeological dig, not a military demonstration. "These are bows," Owen said. "Humans have used them for 70,000 years." The silence from the observation platform was absolute. Finally, Wraith spoke, his voice carefully neutral. "You are showing us hunting equipment from your pre-industrial era. I am showing you weapons that require no power source, create no electromagnetic signature, and cannot be deflected by energy shields," Owen replied. Wraith's amusement returned, colder now. "You cannot be serious. You want to join the Coalition as a military partner, and you offer us Stone Age technology?" Owen picked up one of the bows, a sleek modern design made from composite materials. "This is a compound bow. It uses mechanical advantage through a system of cables and pulleys. The draw weight is 80 pounds, and it can send an arrow through most personal armor at 200 meters. Energy shields," Wraith repeated slowly, as if speaking to a child, "can track and deflect projectiles moving at supersonic speeds. Your arrows move at a fraction of that velocity. They would be even easier to stop than bullets. Would you like to test that theory?" Owen asked. Something in the human's tone made Wraith pause. He had negotiated with dozens of species seeking Coalition membership. Some were arrogant, some desperate, some naive. Owen Taylor was none of these things. The human stood there with his primitive bow, completely confident. "Very well," Wraith decided. "Demonstrate." Owen fitted an arrow to the bowstring. The arrow was not historical recreation. It had a modern broadhead tip designed to penetrate armor, stabilizing fins made from lightweight alloys, and a shaft that could survive tremendous force without breaking. The Draven soldier with the active shield stood 200 meters away. The energy field around him flickered and adjusted constantly. maintained by computers analyzing millions of threat vectors per second. Against any known weapon, he was invulnerable. Owen drew the bowstring back. The motion was smooth, practiced over countless hours. He aimed, calculated for wind and distance, and released. The arrow flew in near silence compared to the crack of gunfire. It crossed 200 meters in under 2 seconds. The energy shield detected the incoming projectile and began generating a deflection field. Then the arrow punched through the shield and buried itself 3 inches deep in the target dummy behind the Draven. "Soldier." The soldier stumbled backward in shock. Alarms blared from his shield generator, reporting a critical failure. Wraith stood up so fast he nearly fell off the observation platform. "Impossible," he said. "The shield should have deflected that." Owen lowered the bow. "Your shields calculate trajectories based on velocity and mass, then generate counterforce to deflect the projectile. But arrows do not fly like bullets. They wobble in flight. They are affected by air currents. Their trajectory is less predictable. The shield's computer cannot calculate the perfect counterforce because the arrow's path is not perfectly straight." He pulled another arrow from the container. "Also, arrows are slower than bullets. Your shield system is optimized to stop high-velocity threats. It uses more power than necessary trying to deflect something that is, by your standards, moving very slowly. The recalibration creates a weakness." Wraith descended from the observation platform and walked to the target. He examined the arrow embedded in the dummy. His mind raced through the implications. "You are saying that these primitive weapons can bypass our most advanced defensive technology." "I am saying that sometimes the old ways work when the new ways fail," Owen replied. "Humans request permission to establish a specialized unit within coalition forces. We believe our unique approach to combat may prove useful." Wraith pulled the arrow free and studied it. The concept was insane. Bows and arrows against starships and energy weapons. Yet the evidence was literally in his hands. "The Council will need to review this," he said finally. "I will submit your demonstration in my report. But I must tell you honestly, the Coalition has not used primitive kinetic weapons in 15,000 years for good reason. Even if your arrows can penetrate shields, they are still just pointed sticks." Owen accepted the arrow back and returned it to its container. "Then let us hope the Coalition never faces an enemy where pointed sticks become necessary." 3 months later, Owen received the Council's decision. Humans were accepted as Coalition members. They would serve in support roles, logistics, and engineering. The specialized archery unit was approved, but only as a ceremonial guard force. No one believed humans with bows would ever see real combat. Owen filed the decision away without comment. He began recruiting the 12 best archers from Earth's military forces. When they asked what their mission would be, he told them the truth. "We wait," he said, "and we practice. Somewhere in this galaxy, there is a problem that lasers and plasma cannons cannot solve. When that day comes, we will be ready." That day came sooner than anyone expected. Trade ships disappeared without warning across the Outer Rim territories. One day they would transmit their scheduled status reports. The next day, nothing but silence. The Coalition Navy deployed patrol squadrons to investigate, but they found only empty space and drifting cargo containers stripped of anything valuable. The attacks followed no pattern that military analysts could identify. Sometimes 3 ships vanished in a single sector within hours. Other times, weeks would pass with no incidents at all. The pirates struck random targets along routes that should have been impossible to predict. Wraith reviewed the tactical reports in his office on the military academy's main campus. 6 months had passed since the humans joined the Coalition. In that time, the pirate attacks had escalated from an annoyance to a crisis. 14 ships lost in the past month alone. The Council was demanding answers. "We tracked one pirate vessel to the Krenna system," his aide reported. "It vanished from sensors before our patrol could engage." "Stealth technology," Wraith said. It was the only explanation that made sense. Probably salvaged from old military equipment. The Outer Rim has dozens of abandoned research stations from the border wars. How do we fight an enemy we cannot see? That was the question keeping Wraith awake at night. Coalition weapons required target locks to function. Energy weapons, missiles, even the automated defense systems on stations and ships all depended on sensors detecting the enemy first. An invisible opponent rendered the entire Coalition arsenal useless. The pirates knew this. They had studied Coalition defenses and found the perfect weakness. Stealth technology negated the technological superiority that the Coalition had relied on for thousands of years. A message arrived from Krenna Station requesting immediate military support. The pirates had attacked again, this time targeting the station itself. They were stripping the facility of supplies and equipment, while the defenders huddled behind locked doors. Unable to fight back against enemies they could not target, Wraith assembled a response force and prepared to deploy. Then a communication request came through from an unexpected source. Owen Taylor wanted to speak with him. The human appeared on the view screen looking tired but determined. "Commander Wraith, I have been following the reports about the pirate attacks. My team believes we can help." "Your team," Wraith said slowly. "The ceremonial archers?" "We prefer specialized combat unit," Owen replied. "The pirates are using stealth technology to avoid your sensors. They are invisible to your targeting systems. But they are not invisible to human eyes," Wraith almost laughed. The suggestion was absurd. "You want to fight invisible pirates with bows and arrows?" "I want to fight them with weapons that do not require a sensor lock," Owen said. "Your energy weapons need computers to aim and fire. Bows only need a human looking in the right direction. If we can see the target, we can hit it." "You cannot see through stealth fields," Wraith objected. "Stealth technology blocks electronic sensors, not visual observation," Owen countered. "The pirates still create shadows, still displace air when they move, still make noise when they walk. Humans hunted prey in dense forest for thousands of years by tracking tiny signs that most species would never notice. Give us a chance." Wraith thought about the 14 ships lost, the supplies stolen, the trade routes that were becoming too dangerous to use. The coalition had no other solutions. Every conventional approach had failed. "Krenna Station is under attack right now," he said. "If your team can reach them in time, you have permission to engage. But understand this, human. If you fail, it proves that your primitive weapons have no place in modern warfare. The Council will shut down your unit permanently." "Understood," Owen said. "We will not fail." The human transport ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Krenna system 12 hours later. 12 humans prepared their equipment in the cargo bay, while Owen reviewed the station's layout on a tactical display. Beth Harper checked her bowstring for the third time, running her fingers along the length to feel for any weak points. She had won 5 national championships before joining the military. Her specialty was extreme long-range shooting, hitting targets at distances most people considered impossible. "You nervous?" asked Roy Chen, adjusting the sights on his compound bow. "Always nervous before a fight," Beth admitted. "Keeps me sharp," Roy grinned. He had grown up hunting in the mountains, learning to shoot while tracking game across rocky terrain. His father had taught him that patience mattered more than speed, that one perfect shot beat a dozen hasty ones. Dana Brooks was the third member of Owen's primary team. She preferred traditional longbows, weapons that required tremendous strength to draw but delivered devastating power. She could put an arrow through a steel plate at 50 meters. The other 9 team members each brought their own specialties. Some used crossbows for rapid firing in close quarters. Others carried recurve bows optimized for mobility. All of them had trained together for 6 months, adapting ancient hunting techniques to the environment of space stations and starships. "Listen up," Owen addressed the team. "Krenna Station has 42 permanent residents and a security force of 8. The pirates came through the main docking bay 30 minutes ago. Station sensors detect at least 20 hostiles, but they could be missing some due to the stealth fields." He pulled up an image of the station's interior. "The civilians are locked in the residential section here. The security force tried to mount a defense but retreated when they realized they could not target the pirates. We are going in through docking bay 2. The pirates will not expect an attack from that direction." "What about station security?" someone asked. "Will they know we are friendlies?" "I sent them our access codes and described our equipment. They think we are insane, but they will not shoot at us." Owen secured his own bow across his back. "Remember your training. These pirates have modern armor and energy weapons. They will be confident because they believe they are invisible. Use that against them. Look for the details, the small signs that give away a position, shadows that do not match the light source, air that moves when nothing should be there, sounds that do not belong." The transport docked with a soft clang. Owen checked the atmosphere reading and confirmed the station still had breathable air. The team moved through the airlock in 2 groups, weapons ready but not drawn. They needed to look non-threatening until they reached the combat zone. The corridor outside the airlock was empty but showed signs of recent fighting. Scorch marks from energy weapons decorated the walls. An overturned cargo container leaked some kind of liquid across the floor. Owen held up a hand, signaling the team to stop. He listened carefully, filtering out the hum of life support systems and the distant vibration of station machinery. They are very faint, the sound of footsteps, someone trying to move quietly but not quite succeeding. He pointed down a side corridor and made a series of hand signals. Beth and Roy moved into position, drawing their bows in complete silence. The rest of the team spread out, creating overlapping fields of fire. The footsteps came closer. Owen caught a flicker of movement, something not quite right about the way light reflected off the corridor wall. He watched for 3 more seconds, confirming his suspicion, then gave the signal. Beth released her arrow. It flew 20 meters and struck something that should not have been there. A pirate screamed and materialized out of thin air as his stealth field collapsed. The arrow had punched through his shoulder, pinning his arm against his side. 2 more pirates decloaked immediately, raising their energy weapons. Roy and Dana shot simultaneously. Both arrows found their targets before the pirates could fire. The fight was over in less than 5 seconds. Owen moved forward and checked the fallen pirates. They were still alive but would not be fighting again anytime soon. He recovered the arrows, inspecting each one for damage before returning them to his team. "Stealth fields are not perfect," he said to the conscious pirate. "They make you invisible to sensors but not to hunters. Tell your friends the humans are here." The pirate stared at him in shock and pain, unable to comprehend how someone with a primitive bow had defeated technology worth millions of credits. The team moved deeper into the station, hunting the remaining pirates with methods that had not changed in 70,000 years. The lights in Krena Station flickered and died, replaced by emergency lighting that cast everything in deep red. The pirates had cut main power, probably hoping to create confusion among the defenders. They did not understand that humans had hunted in darkness since before recorded history. Owen's team moved through the corridors without hesitation. Each member wore night vision equipment, simple technology that amplified available light. The pirates' stealth fields could not block photons completely. In the darkness, the distortions became easier to spot, like heat shimmer on a summer day. Beth took point, her bow half drawn and ready. She moved like water, each step placed carefully to avoid making noise. Behind her, Roy and Dana covered different angles, their heads constantly moving to scan for threats. The rest of the team followed in a staggered formation designed to prevent a single ambush from catching everyone. They reached an intersection where 3 corridors met. Beth held up a closed fist, the signal to freeze. Everyone stopped moving, stopped breathing, just listening. The station's life support system created a constant background hum, but beneath that sound, Beth heard something else. Fabric rustling against metal, someone trying to stay very still and failing. She looked at the ceiling and saw it, a shadow that did not match the emergency lighting. A patch of darkness slightly darker than it should be. The pirate was clinging to the overhead pipes, probably hoping the humans would walk past without looking up. Beth aimed almost straight up and released. The arrow struck true, and the pirate fell from his hiding place with a shout of pain and surprise. He hit the floor hard, his stealth field flickering out to reveal elaborate armor covered in stolen coalition military markings. Before the fallen pirate could raise his weapon, Roy shot him again, this time in the leg. The pirate screamed and dropped his energy rifle. Dana moved forward and kicked the weapon away, then zip-tied the pirate's hands behind his back. "How many more of you are there?" Owen asked. The pirate spat at him. "You are dead. All of you." "The Void King does not forgive anyone who attacks his crews." "The Void King should have stayed in the outer rim," Owen replied. He left 2 team members to guard the prisoner and led the others forward. They found the next group of pirates in the station's cargo bay. 5 of them were loading stolen equipment onto handcarts, laughing and joking as if they owned the place. None of them expected an attack. Their stealth fields were deactivated to save power while they worked. Owen signaled his team to spread out around the cargo bay's entrance. They had practiced this scenario dozens of times in training. 5 targets, 12 archers, overlapping fields of fire to ensure no one escaped. Beth counted down from 3 on her fingers. At 0, 12 bows released simultaneously. The pirates never had a chance to scream. Arrows struck from multiple angles, dropping all 5 in less than 2 seconds. The humans rushed forward to secure the area, checking each fallen pirate to ensure they were no longer a threat. "Recover your arrows," Owen ordered, "and check that equipment. If it is station property, we leave it. Anything else gets documented as evidence. They had just finished when alarms started blaring throughout the station. Owen's communication device crackled to life. The voice on the other end belonged to Station Commander Willis, who had been coordinating the civilian evacuation. Unknown contacts approaching from the main docking bay, Willis reported. At least 10 of them moving fast. They must have heard the fighting. We are in Cargo Bay 3, Owen said. Can you seal the blast doors between us and the main bay? Already done. But those doors will not hold long if they use explosives. Owen studied the cargo bay's layout. There was only one entrance large enough for a group to come through quickly. That made this a perfect choke point, a narrow space where numbers meant nothing and skill meant everything. We will hold this position, he told Willis. Keep the civilians locked down and tell your security team to stay ready. If any pirates get past us, they need to slow them down. Understood. Good luck, Owen turned to his team. They are coming to us, which means we control the engagement. Beth, Dana, you take high positions on those equipment racks. Roy, you and your group set up behind those cargo containers. I want 3 shooters at ground level covering the entrance directly. The team moved into position quickly and efficiently. Beth climbed a storage rack that gave her a clear view of the entire bay. From up here, she could see over barriers and around corners that would block ground-level shooters. Dana took a position on the opposite side, creating a crossfire zone that would catch anyone entering the bay. Roy and 4 others crouched behind heavy cargo containers filled with mining equipment. The containers would stop energy weapons easily. The remaining shooters found spots near the entrance where they could hit targets the moment they came through the door. Then they waited. Waiting was something humans excelled at. Hunters had spent weeks tracking game through wilderness, sitting motionless in trees for hours, learning patience as a survival skill. The pirates were used to fast raids where their stealth gave them every advantage. They had never learned to be patient. The blast door shook as something hit it from the other side. Once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th impact, the door buckled inward. The pirates were using a breaching tool, probably the same one they had used to board the station initially. Beth controlled her breathing, slowing her heart rate the way her instructors had taught her. Adrenaline wanted to speed everything up, make her jumpy and reactive. She forced herself to stay calm, to wait for the perfect moment. The door finally gave way with a screech of tortured metal. Pirates poured through the opening, their stealth fields active and energy weapons ready. They expected to find either fleeing civilians or coalition security forces trying to hide. They found neither. The first arrow came from directly above, Beth shooting straight down into the lead pirate's unprotected back. He went down hard, his stealth field collapsing as his armor's power system failed. The second and third arrows came from Dana's position, taking down 2 more pirates who had moved to cover behind equipment. The pirates realized they were under attack and tried to spread out, using their stealth fields to disappear. But in the confined space of the cargo bay, with shooters positioned at multiple levels, there was nowhere to hide. Every movement created a tell, every step made a sound. Roy shot at a distortion in the air near a support pillar. His arrow hit something solid and a pirate materialized, clutching at the shaft buried in his shoulder. Before that pirate fell, Dana had already shot another one trying to flank around the cargo containers. The ground-level shooters opened fire in rapid succession, their arrows creating a wall of death across the entrance. Pirates fell one after another, their advanced stealth technology useless against opponents who knew how to hunt by sound and shadow. One pirate made it halfway across the bay before Beth tracked him. She led the target slightly, accounting for his speed and direction, then released. The arrow caught him mid-stride and he tumbled forward, crashing into a stack of crates. The entire engagement lasted less than 30 seconds. 11 pirates lay scattered across the cargo bay floor, some dead, most wounded and unable to fight. Not a single human had been injured. Not a single arrow had missed its target. Owen moved through the bay, checking each fallen pirate and securing their weapons. His team recovered their arrows, cleaning blood off the shafts and inspecting the tips for damage. They worked methodically, showing no emotion, treating this like any other training exercise. Station Commander Willis, Owen said into his communicator. The cargo bay is secure. Send your security team to take custody of the prisoners. We are moving to clear the rest of the station. Copy that, Willis replied. His voice carried a note of awe. I watched the whole thing on security cameras. I have never seen anything like that in my life. Just doing our job, Owen said. How many pirates are left? Sensors are picking up maybe 5 more scattered through the station. They are probably trying to retreat to their ship. Not today they are not, Beth said, already climbing down from her perch. Let's finish this. The remaining pirates did not last long. The humans hunted them down one by one, using tactics that predated spaceflight by thousands of years. Track the prey, corner it, eliminate it. Simple, efficient, and absolutely merciless. By the time Wraith arrived with coalition reinforcements 3 hours later, Krenna Station was secure. Every pirate was either dead or in custody. The station's residents were safe and the stolen supplies had been recovered. The human team was cleaning their equipment and preparing to leave. Wraith walked through the cargo bay where the main fight had occurred. He counted the impact sites, calculated firing angles, and tried to understand what he was seeing. 11 pirates taken down in under a minute by weapons that should have been obsolete 15,000 years ago. Impossible, he muttered, but the evidence surrounded him. Owen approached with 3 arrows in his hand, each one stained with blood. Not impossible, he said quietly. Just unexpected. The pirates relied on technology to make them invisible. We relied on skills older than your civilization. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Wraith looked at the human with new respect and growing understanding. The council needs to know about this. All of it. Tell them, Owen replied. Tell them that humans are ready to hunt. News traveled fast across Coalition space. Within days, every station and ship had heard about Krenna. The story grew with each retelling until it sounded like myth. Humans fighting invisible pirates with weapons from ancient history. Most people did not believe it. Those who did started asking questions. The Coalition Council held an emergency session to discuss the implications. Representatives from 40 species gathered to watch the security footage from Krenna Station. They watched in silence as human archers moved through dark corridors, shooting enemies they should not have been able to see, hitting targets with impossible precision. This changes everything we thought we knew about combat doctrine, one representative said. It changes nothing, another argued. One successful engagement does not prove these weapons are viable. The pirates were unprepared and disorganized. Against trained military forces, bows would be useless, but the attacks did not stop. The Void King, leader of the pirate coalition, took Krenna Station as a personal insult. He had built his reputation on being unstoppable, on having technology that made him invisible and invincible. 12 humans with bows had destroyed that reputation in 30 minutes. He sent a message through underground channels, a recording that found its way to Coalition intelligence within hours. The Void King appeared on screen wearing a mask made from salvaged ship components, his voice distorted by electronic filters. The Coalition thinks they have won because they got lucky once, he said. They think primitive weapons wielded by primitives can stop me. I will prove them wrong. I will destroy every human who dares to challenge me. I will make an example that the entire galaxy will remember. Owen watched the recording in his quarters aboard the human transport ship. His team had been given extended authority to operate independently, hunting pirate cells throughout the Outer Rim. The Council wanted results, and they were willing to let humans try unconventional methods. Beth entered without knocking, holding a data pad. Intel just sent us new information. The Void King is consolidating his forces at a location in the Narrow Sector. They think he is planning something big. How reliable is the intelligence? Owen asked. Very. One of his lieutenants turned informant after Krenna. The pirates are scared. They have never faced an enemy they could not see coming. And now they understand how the Coalition has felt for months. Owen stood and pulled up a star chart. The Narrow Sector sat at the edge of Coalition space, a region filled with abandoned mining facilities and debris fields. It was perfect pirate territory, dozens of places to hide and launch attacks from. If we go after him there, it will be a trap, Owen said. The Void King is not stupid. He wants us to come to him. So we do not take the bait? I did not say that. Owen smiled grimly. I said it will be a trap. That does not mean we cannot spring it. Get the team ready, and tell Roy I want him to prepare his special ammunition. If the Void King wants to make an example, we will give him one. The human transport dropped out of faster-than-light travel 2 days later at the coordinates provided by the informant. Long-range sensors detected a large structure floating in the debris field, an abandoned mining station that had been offline for 50 years. Scanning shows life signs throughout the station, Beth reported from the sensor station. At least 60 individuals, maybe more. The station's structure is blocking detailed scans. Any sign of ships nearby? 3 light attack craft docked on the outer ring. Standard pirate conversions, nothing special. Owen studied the tactical display. 60 pirates in an enclosed space where they controlled the terrain and knew every ambush point. This was exactly the scenario the Draven commander had warned him about, where primitive weapons should be completely outmatched. Dana, how many arrows do we have total? 240, Dana replied, counting the special loads Roy has been working on. Not enough if we have to fight 60 hostiles in extended engagement. Owen calculated. We need to be smart about this. Beth, can you get us docked without being detected? The station's sensors are old military surplus. I can spoof our signature to look like a coalition patrol ship. They will think we are here to negotiate or scout. Do it. Once we dock, we split into 3 teams. 4 shooters each, maximum flexibility. The goal is not to kill every pirate. The goal is to kill the Void King and make the rest surrender. The docking procedure went smoothly. The pirates either did not notice the approaching ship or assumed it was not a threat. Owen led his team through the airlock into a docking bay that smelled like oil and recycled air that had been breathed too many times. The bay was empty, except for maintenance equipment and some scattered cargo containers. No guards, no welcoming committee. That confirmed Owen's suspicion. The Void King wanted them deep inside the station before springing his trap. Team split here, Owen ordered quietly. Beth, take the upper levels. Dana, you have the lower engineering sections. I will take the main corridor straight to the station's command center. That is where the Void King will be waiting. Move fast, but stay alert. If you encounter resistance, deal with it and keep moving. We regroup at the command center in 30 minutes. The teams dispersed into the station's maze of corridors. Owen moved with Roy and 2 other archers, their bows ready but not drawn. They needed to look confident but not aggressive, to make the pirates think they were walking into an ambush. They made it 3 corridors before the first attack came. Energy weapons fire erupted from a side passage, bright blue bolts that scorched the walls. Owen and his team dove for cover behind a structural support beam. 4 shooters elevated position. Roy called out. I can see the muzzle flash, Owen nodded. Suppressing fire. Keep their heads down. The archers rose from cover in sequence, each shooting 1 arrow before dropping back. The arrows flew high, arcing over the barriers the pirates were using. 2 found targets. The distinctive sound of broadheads hitting armor echoing through the corridor. The energy weapons fire stopped. Move, Owen ordered. They ran past the side passage without looking, trusting that the threat was neutralized. Behind them, wounded pirates called for medical help that would not come. Beth's team encountered their own resistance in the upper levels. A group of 6 pirates had barricaded themselves in a control room, using the narrow doorway as a natural choke point. Energy weapons fire turned the corridor outside into a kill zone. We cannot rush them, one of Beth's team members said. Beth studied the situation. The control room had heavy blast doors that could withstand significant force, and the pirates had positioned themselves well. A frontal assault would cost lives, maybe the entire team. Then she noticed the ventilation shaft above the doorway. It was small, maybe 40 centimeters across, but big enough for an arrow. Cover me, she said, moving to a position directly across from the control room entrance. She drew an arrow from Roy's special supply, one with a modified tip. Instead of a broadhead designed to penetrate armor, this one had a small explosive charge and a contact detonator. Roy had spent weeks perfecting the design, creating ammunition that could breach doors or destroy equipment. Beth aimed at the ventilation shaft and adjusted for angle. The arrow needed to fly through the shaft, travel about 3 meters through the ductwork, and then drop into the control room. It was an impossible shot by any reasonable standard. She released. The arrow flew true, disappearing into the ventilation shaft. 3 seconds later, an explosion shook the corridor. Smoke poured from the control room doorway and the energy weapons fire stopped. Beth's team rushed the entrance and found the pirates disoriented and choking on smoke. They were taken into custody without further resistance. Dana's team had different problems. The lower engineering levels were cramped and dark, filled with machinery that created blind spots and ambush points. The pirates here were using hit-and-run tactics, taking shots and then disappearing into the mechanical maze. This is their territory, one archer said after they had been attacked for the 3rd time. They know every hiding spot. Then we change the game, Dana replied. She pulled out a chemical light stick and cracked it. creating a bright green glow. We make them come to us. She placed the light stick in an open area and retreated with her team into the shadows. They waited, bows drawn, watching the light. It took 5 minutes for the first pirate to investigate. He approached cautiously, his energy weapon scanning for threats. He never looked up at the overhead pipes where Dana waited. Her arrow dropped him silently. The other pirates, watching from their hiding spots, saw their comrade fall and panicked. They opened fire on the light stick, destroying it and revealing their positions. Dana's team shot from 3 different angles, taking down 4 more pirates before the survivors broke and ran deeper into engineering. Owen's team reached the command center exactly 30 minutes after docking. The massive blast door was closed but not sealed. The Void King wanted them to come inside. He wanted a confrontation. Beth and Dana arrived within seconds of each other, both teams intact and ready. Owen counted heads and confirmed everyone was accounted for. They had lost 0 people. The pirates had lost at least 20. "The Void King is inside," Owen said, pointing at the command center door. "This is his last stand. He will have his best fighters with him, probably 10 or 15. Everyone check your ammunition and equipment. We do this fast and we do it right." Roy stepped forward with his compound bow. "I have 3 arrows left with explosive tips. I can breach that door." "Do it." Roy fired 3 arrows in quick succession, each one hitting the door's locking mechanism. The explosions were small but precisely placed. The door groaned and swung open, revealing the command center beyond. The Void King sat in a command chair at the center of the room, surrounded by 15 pirates in heavy combat armor. He wore his mask and held an energy rifle across his lap. When he spoke, his voice carried the electronic distortion that had made him famous. "The humans who think they are hunters," he said. "You have walked into my trap willingly. My forces surround this station. You cannot escape." Owen stepped through the doorway, his bow held casually at his side. "Your forces are scattered and demoralized. We have cleared 3 sections of this station already. You are alone." "I am never alone," the Void King said. He raised his rifle and his guards did the same. 15 energy weapons aimed at 12 humans with bows. The silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then the Void King made his mistake. He laughed. "Primitive weapons for primitive minds," he said. "You cannot even understand how outmatched you are. My rifle can fire 20 shots per second. Your bows fire 1 arrow at a time. Mathematics defeats tradition." "Mathematics," Owen agreed. He had been counting the guards, calculating angles, assigning targets to each of his archers using nothing but eye contact and small gestures. "Let me show you different mathematics. 15 targets, 12 archers. We shoot twice." The Void King stopped laughing. Too late, he understood. The humans moved as one unit, 12 bows drawing and releasing in perfect synchronization. 15 guards dropped before any of them could pull their triggers. The second volley was not needed. The Void King sat alone in his command chair, his rifle now pointed at empty air. Owen walked forward and took the weapon from his hands. "You relied on technology to make you powerful," Owen said quietly. "We relied on skill. Technology fails. Skill does not." He pulled off the Void King's mask, revealing a face that would soon be broadcast across every coalition station. The most feared pirate in the Outer Rim, defeated by 12 humans with bows. The capture of the Void King broke the pirate coalition. Within a week, 17 different pirate cells surrendered to coalition authorities. The rest scattered into deep space, abandoning their bases and equipment. The Outer Rim territories, which had been paralyzed by pirate attacks for months, began returning to normal operations. Wraith stood in the Coalition Council chamber and watched the recording of the final confrontation for the 5th time. 12 humans against 15 armed pirates in heavy armor. The fight lasted less than 3 seconds. It should have been impossible, yet the evidence played on screen for anyone who doubted. "Commander Wraith," the council speaker addressed him, "you have observed these humans and their methods more closely than anyone. What is your assessment?" Wraith chose his words carefully. His entire career had been built on the principle that advanced technology defeated primitive methods. Everything he had taught at the military academies for 20 years was being challenged by humans with bows. "My initial assessment was incorrect," he admitted. "I believed their weapons were obsolete curiosities. I was wrong. The humans have demonstrated that under specific conditions, low-technology kinetic weapons can outperform our standard equipment." "What conditions?" another council member asked. "Enemies using stealth technology, close-quarters combat in confined spaces." situations where electronic systems are compromised, Wraith explained. The humans have also shown exceptional skill in tracking and ambush tactics. Their training methods produce soldiers who can operate effectively without computer assistance. Should the Coalition adopt these weapons? The speaker asked. That was the question that had kept Wraith awake for the past week. Should the most advanced military force in the galaxy start training soldiers to use bows? The political implications alone were staggering. I recommend expanding the human archery program and allowing volunteers from other species to train with them, Wraith said, not as a replacement for our existing forces, but as a specialized unit for situations where conventional weapons fail. The humans have proven their value. We should learn from them. The council debated for 3 hours before reaching a decision. The human archery program would be expanded. Owen Taylor would be promoted to Special Operations Commander with authority to train and deploy mixed-species teams. Additional resources would be allocated for research into low-technology combat systems. Owen received the notification while his team was cleaning equipment on their transport ship. He read the orders twice, making sure he understood correctly, then called his team together. The council wants us to train other species in archery, he announced. They are sending volunteers from 16 different worlds. We have 3 months to turn them into combat-ready archers. Beth looked up from the bowstring she was waxing. Can other species even use bows? Their physiology is different from humans. We will find out, Owen replied. The council is also sending engineers to help us develop modified equipment for different body types. But the fundamentals remain the same. Draw, aim, release. Anyone with eyes and hands can learn. The first group of volunteers arrived 2 weeks later. 40 individuals from 9 species. All of them experienced soldiers who had requested transfer to the human archery program. They came expecting intense physical training. They were not disappointed. Owen started every recruit at the very beginning, the same way human archers had learned for 70,000 years. He gave them simple training bows with light draw weights and set up targets at close range. The goal was not power or distance. The goal was form. Watch your breathing, he instructed a Dreven recruit who was struggling with a 20-pound bow. Archery is not about strength. It is about consistency. Every shot should feel exactly the same. Same stance, same draw, same release. Make your body remember the motion until you can do it without thinking. The Draven, a young female named Lyra, nodded and tried again. Her shot went wide, missing the target by a full meter. She hissed in frustration. Do not focus on where the arrow hits, Owen said. Focus on the process. If your form is correct, the arrow will hit the target. Trust the system. Beth worked with a group of recruits on breathing techniques. Roy taught the mechanics of different bow types and how to select arrows for specific situations. Dana demonstrated power shooting, drawing a 70-pound longbow and putting an arrow completely through a ballistic gel dummy. The recruits trained 12 hours a day for 3 weeks. Some improved quickly, natural athletes who adapted to the new weapon system with ease. Others struggled, fighting against instincts developed for energy weapons that required completely different techniques. Lyra fell into the second category. She could shoot well enough at static targets, but when Owen introduced moving targets and stress scenarios, her accuracy fell apart. After watching her miss 10 shots in a row, he pulled her aside. You are thinking too much, he said. I am calculating wind speed, target velocity, arrow trajectory, Lyra protested. That is what we are taught in Draven military training. Calculate everything. Remove variables, ensure success. Archery does not work that way, Owen explained. You do not have time to calculate. You see the target, you draw the bow, you release. Your subconscious brain handles the calculations faster than your conscious mind ever could. You have to trust your training and let instinct take over. That is not logical. War is not logical, Owen replied. The enemy does not wait for you to finish your calculations. Humans learned this thousands of years ago. We developed intuitive targeting through practice, not mathematics. Shoot 1,000 arrows at a moving target, and your brain learns to predict without conscious thought. Lyra spent the next week doing exactly that. 1,000 arrows at moving targets, no calculator, no computer assistance, just her eyes and her hands. By the end of the week, her hit rate had improved from 20% to 75%. The breakthrough came during a night exercise. Owen divided the recruits into 2 teams for a capture-the-flag scenario in a mock-up station environment. Teams had to navigate dark corridors, locate their opponents, and eliminate them with blunt-tipped arrows that triggered impact sensors. Lyra's team was losing badly. The human recruits on the opposing team had superior night vision and better instincts for moving in darkness. They picked off Lyra's teammates one by one until she was the last defender protecting her team's flag. She crouched behind a cargo container, listening to footsteps approaching from multiple directions. 3 opponents, maybe 4, coordinating their attack. Her training said to calculate their positions, determine optimal firing solutions, eliminate threats in order of priority. Instead, she closed her eyes and just listened. One set of footsteps was heavier than the others. That person was moving with confidence, probably the team leader. A second set moved hesitantly, checking corners, a cautious fighter. The third moved fast, barely trying to be quiet. An aggressive fighter looking for quick victory. Lyra drew her bow and waited. She did not calculate, she did not plan. She just waited for the right moment, trusting her instincts. The aggressive fighter appeared first, rushing around the cargo container. Lyra released without thinking, her arrow catching him center mass. The impact sensor on his vest triggered, eliminating him from the game. She had already knocked a second arrow before the first opponent fell. The cautious fighter appeared from the opposite direction, trying to catch her from behind. Lyra spun and released in one motion. Another hit. The team leader appeared directly in front of her, his bow drawn and aimed. For a frozen moment, they faced each other in the darkness. Then Lyra did something that surprised both of them. She dropped her bow and dove forward, rolling under his line of fire. She came up with a training knife and tagged his sensor vest before he could adjust his aim. Exercise over. Lyra's team won. Owen watched the entire engagement from the control room. He nodded slowly, satisfied. The Draven recruit had finally stopped thinking like a Draven and started thinking like a hunter. The 3-month training program concluded with a final examination. Each recruit had to demonstrate proficiency in static shooting, moving targets, night operations, close quarters combat, and tactical decision-making. 32 recruits out of the original 40 passed all requirements. The graduation ceremony took place on the main Coalition Military Academy campus. Wraith attended, along with several council members and military observers from across Coalition space. They watched as human and alien archers demonstrated their skills in a series of increasingly difficult scenarios. The final demonstration pitted the new mixed-species archery unit against a simulated pirate raid. 20 archers against 40 opponents equipped with stealth fields and energy weapons. The exercise was designed to be nearly impossible, a test of everything the recruits had learned. The archers won in 12 minutes with 0 casualties. Wraith approached Owen after the demonstration. "I owe you an apology," he said. "When you first showed me bows, I thought you were showing me relics. I did not understand that you were showing me the future." "Not the future," Owen corrected. "The past. Humans have always known that the old ways work. We never forgot our roots, never abandoned the skills that kept our species alive through the hardest times. We just needed the galaxy to remember that primitiveness is not the same as weakness." "What happens now?" Wraith asked. Owen looked at his graduates, human and alien standing together, each one carrying a bow that could defeat enemies the Coalition had thought unstoppable. "Now we find out what else the galaxy has forgotten, and we remind them." The ceremony concluded with each graduate receiving their unit insignia, a simple design showing a drawn bow against stars. They were officially designated as the Coalition Rapid Response Archery Teams, though everyone called them the Hunters. Lyra stood among her fellow graduates, feeling the weight of her bow across her shoulders. 3 months ago, she had considered archery a primitive curiosity. Now she understood it was something far more important. It was proof that the old ways still mattered, that skills developed before spaceflight still had value, and that sometimes the best solution to a modern problem was an ancient answer. She caught Owen watching her and nodded once. He nodded back, a gesture of respect between warriors who spoke the same language even though they came from different worlds. The galaxy was changing. Humans had seen to that. And Lyra was ready to be part of that change, one arrow at a time. 6 months after the Void King's capture, Owen received an urgent message from Coalition intelligence. A new threat had emerged in the frontier territories, something that made the pirate problem look simple by comparison. He read the briefing twice before calling his senior team together. Beth arrived first, followed by Roy and Dana. Lyra entered last, now wearing the full insignia of a hunter team leader. The Draven had proven herself exceptional, rising quickly through the ranks to command her own squad of mixed-species archers. Intelligence has detected unknown ships operating in the frontier systems, Owen began, pulling up a star chart. They appeared 3 weeks ago and have been conducting raids on isolated research stations. No contact, no demands, just attacks. Pirates? Beth asked. No. These attackers move with military precision and use technology we have never seen before. Their weapons ignore our energy shields completely, as if the shields are not even there. 4 stations destroyed so far, 0 survivors. Roy studied the attack patterns on the display. How are they destroying the stations? Energy weapons should leave signatures we can identify. That is the problem, Owen replied. We cannot identify the weapons. They appear to use some kind of focused energy that does not register on our sensors until after it has already hit. By then it is too late. Dana leaned forward. You think arrows can work against enemies we cannot see or track? I think we need to gather more intelligence before we know what will work, Owen said. The Council has authorized our unit to investigate. They want us to reach the frontier, assess the threat, and determine if these new enemies can be stopped with conventional methods. If not, we adapt. The hunter transport ship departed the next day, carrying 40 archers, 20 humans, and 20 from other species. They traveled for 5 days to reach the frontier, a region of space where Coalition authority was more theory than practice. Out here, stations operated independently and ships traveled without regular patrols. Their destination was research. Station Meridian, a facility studying exotic particles in a nearby nebula. Intelligence reported that Meridian should be the next target based on the attack pattern. Owen planned to be there waiting when the unknown enemies arrived. Station Director Grant met them at the docking bay. He was human, one of the few who had volunteered for frontier duty where the pay was better, but the risks were much higher. He looked exhausted. Thank whatever gods exist that you are here, Grant said. We have been running evacuation drills every day since we heard about the other stations. My people are terrified. How many personnel on station? Owen asked. 63 researchers and support staff. We have minimal defensive systems, nothing that could stop a serious attack. Owen walked through the station with Beth and Lyra, studying the layout and identifying defensive positions. Meridian was larger than Krenna Station, but built with the same basic design. Narrow corridors, multiple levels, plenty of places for defenders to take cover. We need to understand what we are facing, Owen said. Beth, set up observation posts with the best sight lines to the docking bays. Lyra, position your team in the main corridors. I want overlapping fields of fire everywhere. If these enemies board the station, we make them pay for every meter they advance. 3 days passed with no contact. The station personnel grew restless, wondering if the threat was real or if intelligence had made a mistake. Owen knew better. The attack pattern was too consistent. Meridian would be hit. It was just a question of when. The answer came on the 4th day. Long-range sensors detected 3 ships approaching at high speed. They did not respond to hail attempts or identification requests. They simply kept coming. All personnel to safe zones, Grant ordered over the station intercom. Hunters to defensive positions. This is not a drill. Owen moved to his command post overlooking the main docking bay. Around him, 20 archers took positions behind barriers and in elevated spots. They carried a mix of equipment, traditional broadhead arrows for armored targets, explosive-tipped arrows for breaching, and special arrows Roy had designed with chemical payloads that could blind or disorient opponents. The 3 ships docked simultaneously at different points around the station. The coordination was perfect, too perfect for random pirates. These were trained military forces. Nothing happened for 30 seconds. Then the airlocks began cycling open. The first enemy soldier that stepped through the airlock looked vaguely humanoid, but wrong in subtle ways. Its proportions were off, limbs too long, joints bending at angles that should not be possible. It wore armor that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, and it carried a weapon that glowed with internal light. Behind the first soldier came 10 more, then 20, then more still. They moved into the station in organized formations, checking corners and covering each other like professionals. Owen counted at least 60 hostiles spreading through Meridian's corridors. "Hold fire," he ordered quietly through his communication system. "Let them advance. We need to understand their capabilities before engaging." The enemy soldiers moved deeper into the station, searching for personnel to capture or kill. They found neither. The civilians were locked in reinforced safe rooms, and the hunters remained hidden, watching and waiting. One group of enemy soldiers entered the main corridor where Lyra's team was positioned. She observed them through a small gap in her barrier, studying how they moved and communicated. They did not speak, at least not audibly. Instead, they seemed to coordinate through subtle body language or perhaps some form of telepathy. One soldier paused directly in front of Lyra's position. It turned its head slowly as if sensing something nearby. The liquid metal armor rippled and its weapon began to glow brighter. Lyra held her breath and remained absolutely still. She had trained for this, learned to wait for the perfect moment. The soldier took one step closer to her barrier. She released her arrow from less than 3 meters away. The broadhead punched through the liquid armor and buried itself in whatever passed for the creature's chest. The soldier made no sound, but its armor stopped flowing and became rigid. It collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. The other soldiers reacted instantly, raising their weapons toward Lyra's position. She was already rolling sideways as beams of white energy sliced through the space where she had been standing. The energy cut through metal barriers like they were paper. "Engage," Owen ordered. 40 bows released simultaneously from positions throughout the station. The enemy soldiers had been expecting energy weapons and modern combat tactics. They were not prepared for silent arrows coming from unexpected angles. The first volley dropped 15 soldiers. The survivors scattered, trying to find cover while dealing with an attack method their training had never addressed. More arrows flew, picking off targets one by one. But the enemy adapted quickly. Their weapons might not require target locks, but they were devastating against anything they could hit. White energy beams cut through walls and equipment, destroying defensive positions and forcing the hunters to keep moving. Beth relocated 3 times in as many minutes, shooting from different positions each time. She watched an enemy soldier track her movement and aim its weapon. She released her arrow a fraction of a second before the soldier fired. Her arrow hit first. The soldier's energy beam went wide, cutting a line across the ceiling. Roy focused on the enemy weapons themselves. He used explosive-tipped arrows to target the glowing energy cores visible through gaps in the liquid armor. When his arrows hit, the weapons exploded, taking their users with them. Dana held a narrow choke point alone, her longbow striking with tremendous force. Enemy soldiers tried to rush her position 3 times. Each time her arrows stopped them cold. Bodies began to pile up, forcing subsequent attackers to climb over their fallen comrades. The battle raged for 20 minutes. The enemy soldiers were skilled and their weapons were powerful, but they had never faced opponents who could strike without creating electronic signatures. Every time they thought they had located a hunter, that hunter was already moving to a new position. Owen shot an enemy commander who was trying to coordinate his forces. The soldier wore more elaborate armor and carried a larger weapon. When Owen's arrow killed him, the remaining enemy soldiers seemed to lose cohesion. They stopped advancing and began falling back toward their ships. "Do not let them escape," Owen ordered. "We need prisoners. We need information." The hunters pressed their advantage, moving from defensive positions to aggressive pursuit. They chased the retreating enemy soldiers back toward the docking bays, cutting off escape routes and forcing surrenders. In the end, 12 enemy soldiers were captured alive. The rest were dead or wounded too badly to fight. 3 hunter team members had been injured by energy weapon fire, but all would survive. Not a single station personnel had been harmed. Owen stood in the docking bay and studied the captured soldiers. Up close, they looked even less human than he had thought. Their armor had stopped flowing and now hung on their frames like dead tissue. Without it, they were thin and fragile, adapted for low-gravity environments. Grant approached with a translation device that intelligence had provided. We are getting some communication from the prisoners. They call themselves the Remnant. They are survivors of a failed colony fleet that has been drifting through space for generations. They are desperate for resources and technology. Desperate enough to attack peaceful research stations? They did not expect resistance, Grant replied. Their weapons were designed to overwhelm energy shields, which is why coalition defenses failed. They thought we would be helpless. Owen looked at the 12 prisoners surrounded by hunter guards with drawn bows. The remnant soldiers stared back with what might have been confusion or fear. It was hard to read emotion on such alien faces. Tell them the coalition is willing to negotiate, Owen said. Tell them we can provide aid to their fleet if they stop the attacks. But make sure they understand this. If they attack again, we will hunt them down. We will find every ship, every hiding place, and we will end the threat they represent. Not with technology, but with arrows that they cannot stop and warriors they cannot see. Grant translated. The prisoners listened and then spoke among themselves in their strange, silent way. Finally, one of them addressed Grant directly. They want to know how you defeated them, Grant translated. Their intelligence said coalition forces relied entirely on energy weapons and electronic targeting systems. They studied your tactics for months before attacking. They were certain you were helpless against their weapons. Owen picked up an arrow from his container and held it so the prisoner could see. Tell them we remember the old ways. Tell them humans never forgot how to hunt. Tell them the galaxy is full of species who remember skills older than starlight. And tell them that primitiveness is not weakness. Sometimes the oldest answers are the best answers. The translation took several minutes. When it was complete, the prisoner looked at Owen with what might have been respect. It gestured toward the arrow and spoke. It asks if you would teach them, Grant said, surprised. The Remnant have lost many traditions in their long journey through space. They want to learn the old ways that you remember. Owen considered the question carefully. The Remnant had killed hundreds of people in their desperate search for resources. They had attacked without warning or mercy. But they were also survivors, refugees trying to keep their species alive against impossible odds. Tell them we will negotiate with their leaders, Owen said finally. If they are willing to stop the attacks and accept coalition aid, then yes, we can teach them. Not just archery, but all the old skills that matter. Hunting, tracking, survival without technology, the lessons that kept humans alive before we reached the stars. News of the Meridian defense spread quickly through coalition space. The hunters had defeated an enemy that conventional forces could not stop. The Council authorized expansion of the archery program and formal recognition as a full military branch. Wraith visited Owen one last time before the hunter fleet deployed to their new headquarters in the frontier territories. The Draven commander looked older somehow, as if the events of the past year had aged him. I spent 20 years teaching that advanced technology always defeats primitive methods, Wraith said. I was so certain that I was right. You have proven me wrong repeatedly. I do not know whether to feel ashamed or grateful. Feel neither, Owen replied. What you taught was not wrong. Advanced technology is powerful and effective. You just forgot that old technology, used with skill and wisdom, can be equally powerful. The galaxy needs both. New solutions for new problems, old solutions for old problems. And the hunters? What role do they play now? Owen looked out at his fleet of transport ships, each one carrying teams of archers from a dozen different species. Human, Draven, and others, all of them learning the old ways together. We remind the galaxy that progress is not about abandoning the past, he said. It is about carrying the best of the past forward into the future. Humans have been shooting bows for 70,000 years. We will probably still be shooting them 70,000 years from now, because some truths do not change. Some skills remain valuable no matter how advanced we become. Wraith extended his hand in the human gesture of respect. Owen shook it. Safe hunting, Commander Taylor. Safe travels, Commander Wraith. The hunter fleet departed the next day for the frontier territories where the remnant colony fleet waited. There would be negotiations, cultural exchanges, and eventually teaching. The remnant would learn that survival required more than just advanced weapons. It required remembering the skills that had kept their ancestors alive. Beth stood at the observation window and watched coalition space recede behind them. Do you think we made a difference? She asked Owen. We reminded the galaxy that humans have something to contribute beyond just technology, Owen replied. We showed them that the old ways still matter. That sometimes the best weapon is the one that has been tested for thousands of years. That primitiveness is not weakness but a different kind of strength. And the next time someone calls our weapons primitive, Owen smiled. We show them what primitive means. We show them 70,000 years of human skill and knowledge. We show them that we answered the galaxy's dismissal with bows and we won. Far ahead in the darkness between stars, new challenges waited, new enemies with new weapons, new problems requiring new solutions. But the hunters were ready. They carried with them the oldest tools of human warfare and the newest understanding of how to use them. They carried bows, and with those bows they carried a message to the entire galaxy. The old ways endure. The old ways matter, and humans never forget how to hunt.